There are certain moments in history that continue to inspire hearts centuries after they occurred. They are not remembered because of worldly victories or material achievements, but because they demonstrate unwavering faith, courage, and devotion to Allah. One such moment took place on the 2nd of Muharram when Imam Hussain, R.A., the beloved grandson of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, arrived at the land of Karbala. At first glance, it may have seemed like the arrival of a traveler reaching a destination. Yet Allah had decreed that this land would become a symbol of sacrifice, patience, and standing firmly upon the truth. As Imam Hussain, his family, and his loyal companions set up their tents on the plains of Karbala, they were stepping into a chapter of history that would leave a lasting lesson for generations to come. What makes this event so powerful is not merely where it happened, but what it represents. It reminds us that faith is not only about worship during times of ease. Faith is tested when challenges arise. Faith shines when a believer chooses truth over comfort, principle over personal gain, and obedience to Allah over the temptations of this world. The story of the 2nd of Muharram is more than a historical account. It is a reminder for every believer who faces difficulties, every person struggling to remain steadfast, and every heart seeking strength in uncertain times. It teaches us that even when the road ahead appears difficult, trust in Allah can illuminate the darkest paths. It teaches us that true success is not measured by worldly outcomes, but by remaining faithful to Allah and standing firm upon what is right. As we reflect on this remarkable day, let us journey back to the plains of Karbala and uncover the lessons, wisdom, and inspiration that continue to resonate in the hearts of millions around the world. The arrival of Imam Hussain, R.A. in Karbala on the 2nd of Muharram was not merely the arrival of a traveler at a destination. It marked the beginning of one of the most significant and emotionally powerful chapters in Islamic history. More than 13 centuries later, Muslims around the world continue to remember this event because it carries lessons of faith, patience, courage, sacrifice, and unwavering trust in Allah. To understand the importance of this moment, we must first remember who Imam Hussain, R.A. was. He was the beloved grandson of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the son of Hazrat Ali, R.A. and Hazrat Fatima, R.A. the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. He grew up in the blessed household of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and was nurtured by the values of truth, justice, mercy, and devotion to Allah. The Prophet ﷺ loved Hassan, R.A. and Hussein, R.A. dearly and often expressed that love openly before the companions. Years after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, the Muslim world faced many challenges and political changes. During this period, Imam Hussain, R.A. found himself confronted with a situation that required him to make a difficult choice. He could either remain silent in the face of what he believed was wrong, or he could stand firmly for truth regardless of the consequences. He chose the path of truth. When Imam Hussain left Makkah, he was not seeking power, wealth, or status. He was not leading an army in pursuit of worldly gain. His journey was motivated by his desire to uphold justice and preserve the principles of Islam. He understood that remaining silent when truth was being compromised could have lasting consequences for the Muslim community. As his journey continued, events unfolded that eventually led him toward Karbala. On the 2nd of Muharram in the year 61 AH, Imam Hussain arrived at this land with his family members and loyal companions. The desert landscape stretched before them. To many people, it may have appeared to be just another location in a vast region. Yet Allah had chosen this place to become one of the most remembered lands in Islamic history. Historical narrations mention that when Imam Hussain, R.A., learned the name of the place, he recognized that it would be the site of a great trial. Even though the future held immense difficulty, he did not turn away from his principles. This is one of the first lessons believers can learn from this event. Faith is not proven only when circumstances are easy. Faith is proven when challenges arise and a person continues to hold firmly to what is right. Imagine the emotions that may have existed among the members of the caravan. There were men, women, and children present. There was uncertainty about what lay ahead. The future was unclear. Yet despite this uncertainty, they remained together and continued trusting Allah. This trust was not based upon knowing exactly how events would unfold. It was based upon knowing that Allah is always in control. One of the greatest tests in life is facing uncertainty. Human beings naturally want clear answers. We want to know what tomorrow will bring. We want assurance that everything will work out according to our plans. Yet life often unfolds differently. There are moments when believers must move forward without seeing the entire picture. This was one of those moments. The arrival in Karbala teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is continuing to do what is right despite fear. Imam Hussain, R.A., understood the seriousness of the situation. He knew that difficulties were approaching. Yet he refused to compromise his principles for personal safety or worldly comfort. This type of courage can only come from deep faith and complete trust in Allah. Another important lesson from this event is the value of standing for truth. Throughout history, many people have abandoned their principles when faced with pressure. They chose convenience over integrity and comfort over conviction. Imam Hussain demonstrated that truth remains valuable even when defending it requires sacrifice. His example continues to inspire people because it shows that honor is found in faithfulness to what is right. The events surrounding Karbala also remind believers that worldly success and spiritual success are not always the same thing. Society often measures success by wealth, influence, popularity, or power. Islam teaches a different perspective. True success is earning the pleasure of Allah and remaining steadfast upon righteousness. A person may possess little in worldly terms, yet be honored greatly in the sight of Allah. As the tents were established in Karbala on that 2nd of Muharram, no one present could fully comprehend how deeply the events of the coming days would impact future generations. Yet Allah's wisdom was already at work. The lessons emerging from Karbala would continue teaching Muslims about patience, sacrifice, sincerity, and steadfastness long after those events had passed. Patience is one of the strongest themes connected to Karbala. Patience does not mean weakness. It does not mean accepting injustice without conviction. Rather, it means remaining obedient to Allah during difficult circumstances. It means controlling one's emotions, maintaining trust in Allah, and continuing to pursue what is right regardless of hardship. Many believers today face challenges of a different nature. They may struggle with financial difficulties, family problems, health issues, emotional pain, or uncertainty about the future. While these situations differ from the historical events of Karbala, the lessons remain relevant. The example of Imam Hussain, R.A., reminds us that difficult circumstances do not define us. What defines us is how we respond to them. When people encounter hardship, they often ask why Allah allows challenges to occur. Islamic history repeatedly demonstrates that tests are part of the journey of faith. Even the most beloved servants of Allah faced trials. The prophets faced trials. Their companions faced trials. Righteous believers throughout history faced trials. These difficulties were not signs of Allah's abandonment. Rather, they became opportunities for faith, growth, and spiritual elevation. The arrival at Karbala also highlights the importance of trust in Allah's wisdom. Human beings can only see a small portion of reality. Allah sees everything. We see the present moment, but Allah sees the entire future. We see immediate difficulties, but Allah sees the greater purpose behind them. This understanding allows believers to remain hopeful even during challenging times. As Muslims reflect upon the 2nd of Muharram, they are reminded that faith requires commitment. It requires sincerity. It requires the willingness to remain loyal to Islamic values, even when doing so becomes difficult. The example of Imam Hussain, R.A., continues to inspire hearts because it demonstrates what steadfast faith looks like in practice. His journey to Karbala was not driven by worldly ambition. It was driven by devotion to Allah and dedication to truth, values that continue to guide and inspire believers across generations. True honor is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the world. Many people believe honor comes from wealth, power, influence, popularity. or having authority over others. Society often teaches us that success is measured by how much we own, how many people admire us, or how much control we have over our circumstances. Yet when we study the lives of the greatest believers in Islamic history, we discover a completely different definition of honor. True honor lies in standing for truth, even when the path ahead is filled with hardship, uncertainty, and sacrifice. This lesson shines brightly through the life of Imam Hussain, R.A. He was the beloved grandson of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and a person whose character was shaped by the teachings of Islam from an early age. He grew up in a household filled with faith, wisdom, and devotion to Allah. Throughout his life, he understood that the value of a person is not determined by worldly status, but by their relationship with Allah and their commitment to what is right. There are moments in every person's life when they must make difficult choices. Sometimes the easy option is not the right option. Sometimes remaining silent is easier than speaking the truth. Sometimes following the crowd is easier than standing apart. Sometimes compromising principles appears more convenient than holding firmly to them. These are the moments that reveal the true strength of a person's character. Imam Hussain, R.A., faced such a moment. He found himself in a situation where remaining silent would have been safer and more comfortable from a worldly perspective. Yet he understood that faith is not only about worship during peaceful times. Faith also requires courage when challenges arise. It requires a person to remain loyal to truth, even when doing so carries a cost. One of the greatest qualities of righteous people throughout history is that they understood the temporary nature of this world. They knew that wealth comes and goes, power rises and falls, popularity changes from one day to the next. Human praise can disappear overnight. The only thing that truly lasts is a person's relationship with Allah and the deeds they send forward for the hereafter. Because of this understanding, they refused to sacrifice eternal values for temporary benefits. They realized that a moment of compromise could have lasting consequences. They understood that pleasing Allah is more important than pleasing people. This perspective gave them the strength to stand firm, even when facing uncertainty. The story of Karbala reminds us that truth is not always supported by large numbers. Sometimes a person may stand almost alone while defending what is right. Human beings often find comfort in following the majority. We feel safer when others agree with us. Yet throughout history, many of the greatest examples of courage came from individuals who remained steadfast even when they lacked widespread support. This lesson is extremely relevant today. Modern life presents believers with many situations where they may feel pressure to compromise their values. A person may face pressure to be dishonest in business. A student may face pressure to cheat in order to achieve better results. Someone may feel pressure to abandon Islamic principles in order to gain acceptance from others. In these moments, the example of Imam Hussain serves as a reminder that true honor comes from remaining faithful to what is right. Standing for truth does not mean being harsh or aggressive. Islam teaches believers to combine truth with wisdom, patience, and good character. The goal is not to create conflict, but to remain sincere in one's commitment to Allah. A believer should always strive to act with dignity, kindness, and respect while refusing to abandon their principles. Another important lesson from this keynote is understanding that hardship does not reduce a person's honor. In fact, hardship often reveals it. Many people appear strong when life is easy. They seem confident when everything is going according to plan. But true strength becomes visible during difficult times. When obstacles arise, when uncertainty increases, and when sacrifices are required, the depth of a person's faith begins to show. Think about the lives of the prophets. Prophet Nuh A.S. preached for many years while facing rejection from his people. Prophet Ibrahim A.S. was willing to stand against the beliefs of his society because he was committed to truth. Prophet Musa A.S. confronted one of the most powerful rulers of his time. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ endured years of hardship, persecution, and opposition while delivering the message of Islam. None of these individuals chose the easy path. Yet they are remembered with honor because they remained loyal to Allah regardless of the difficulties they faced. This pattern teaches us something important. Allah does not judge success according to worldly standards. He looks at sincerity, faith, patience, and obedience. A person may appear unsuccessful in the eyes of the world, yet possess immense honor in the sight of Allah. Another person may have great worldly achievements, but little value if they have neglected their relationship with their Creator. The path of truth often requires patience, because results are not always immediate. Human beings naturally want quick outcomes. We want to see immediate success, immediate change, and immediate rewards. Yet Allah's wisdom operates according to a greater plan. Sometimes believers are asked to continue doing what is right, even when they cannot yet see the results of their efforts. This is where trust in Allah becomes essential. When a believer understands that Allah is aware of every struggle, every sacrifice, and every act of sincerity, they find strength to continue moving forward. They no longer rely solely on visible outcomes for motivation. Instead, they find motivation in knowing that Allah sees their efforts and that nothing is lost in His sight. The arrival of Imam Hussain, RA in Karbala, represents more than a historical event. It represents a timeless reminder that principles matter, values matter, faith matters. The decisions we make during difficult moments shape our character and define our legacy. Every generation faces its own challenges, but the need for courage and integrity remains constant. Many people spend their lives chasing acceptance from others. They worry constantly about public opinion and fear criticism. Yet no matter how hard someone tries, it is impossible to satisfy everyone. Human opinions change constantly. What one group praises today, another may criticize tomorrow. Seeking the pleasure of people is an endless pursuit. Seeking the pleasure of Allah, however, provides stability and peace. A believer who stands for truth understands that difficulties are part of life. They do not expect the path of righteousness to always be easy. Instead, they prepare themselves through faith, prayer, patience, and reliance upon Allah. They understand that challenges are opportunities to demonstrate sincerity and strengthen their relationship with their Creator. The courage shown by Imam Hussain RA continues to inspire millions because it reflects a universal principle. There are values worth defending. There are truths worth preserving. There are moments when doing what is right becomes more important than pursuing comfort. Through his example, believers learn that true honor is not found in avoiding hardship, but in remaining faithful to Allah when hardship arrives, trusting Him completely, and refusing to abandon the truth, no matter how uncertain the road ahead may appear. The events of Karbala continue to teach believers the values of courage, sincerity, and complete trust in Allah. More than 13 centuries have passed since those events took place, yet their lessons remain as relevant today as they were then. This is because the story of Karbala is not simply about a place, a time, or a historical event. It is about qualities that every believer needs throughout life, no matter where a person lives or what challenges they face. Courage, sincerity, and trust in Allah will always be essential for navigating the journey of faith. When people hear the word courage, they often imagine someone standing bravely in the face of danger. While that is certainly one form of courage, the courage taught through the lessons of Karbala goes much deeper. True courage is the ability to remain faithful to what is right, even when it becomes difficult. It is choosing truth when falsehood appears easier. It is holding on to principles when compromising them would bring comfort. It is continuing to trust Allah when circumstances seem uncertain. Imam Hussain, RA, demonstrated this type of courage through his actions. He understood that standing for truth could lead to hardship, yet he refused to abandon his principles. He was not motivated by personal gain, popularity, or worldly success. His concern was fulfilling his responsibility before Allah and remaining faithful to the values taught by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This lesson is extremely important because modern life presents believers with many situations that require courage. Not everyone will face the same challenges, but everyone faces tests. Sometimes courage means speaking honestly when dishonesty would be easier. Sometimes courage means refusing to participate in wrongdoing even when others encourage it. Sometimes courage means remaining patient through hardship instead of giving in to despair. A student may need courage to maintain honesty during examinations when others are cheating. An employee may need courage to refuse unethical practices in the workplace. A young Muslim may need courage to remain committed to Islamic values in an environment where those values are not always appreciated. These situations may appear small compared to major historical events, but they are significant because they shape a person's character and relationship with Allah. The story of Karbala reminds believers that courage is not measured by the size of the challenge alone. It is measured by a person's willingness to remain faithful to Allah regardless of the challenge. Every act of integrity, every moment of patience, and every decision to do what is right contributes to the development of true courage. Alongside courage, Karbala teaches the importance of sincerity. Sincerity is one of the most beautiful qualities a believer can possess because it transforms ordinary actions into acts of worship. Sincerity means performing actions for the sake of Allah rather than for praise, recognition, or worldly benefit. It means focusing on Allah's pleasure above all else. One of the challenges people face is the desire for approval from others. Human beings naturally enjoy being appreciated and recognized. There is nothing wrong with appreciation itself, but problems arise when pleasing people becomes more important than pleasing Allah. A person may begin adjusting their values, beliefs, or actions in order to gain acceptance from others. Sincere believers understand that human approval is temporary. People's opinions change constantly. Someone who praises you today may criticize you tomorrow. Someone who admires you now may forget you later. The pleasure of Allah, however, remains constant and eternal. This understanding gives believers freedom from the endless pursuit of approval. They continue doing good, even when nobody notices. They remain honest, even when dishonesty would bring immediate benefits. They continue helping others, even when they receive no recognition. Their motivation comes from knowing that Allah sees every action and knows every intention. The events surrounding Karbala continue to inspire because they reflect this sincerity. The actions of Imam Hussain were not driven by worldly ambitions. They were rooted in faith, conviction, and devotion to Allah. This sincerity is one of the reasons his example continues to touch hearts across generations. Another lesson that emerges powerfully from Karbala is complete trust in Allah. Trust in Allah, often referred to as tawakkul, is one of the foundations of faith. It means relying upon Allah while making the necessary effort. It means understanding that ultimate control belongs to Him, even when circumstances appear confusing. Human beings often struggle with uncertainty. We want answers about the future. We want guarantees that everything will work out according to our plans. We want to know exactly what tomorrow will bring. Yet life rarely provides that level of certainty. There are always unknowns. There are always situations beyond our control. Trust in Allah allows believers to find peace within this uncertainty. It reminds them that although they do not know everything, Allah does. Although they cannot control every outcome, Allah controls all outcomes. Although they cannot see the entire picture, Allah sees every detail. Many people believe trust in Allah means sitting back and waiting for things to happen. This is not the Islamic understanding of tawakkul. True trust involves effort combined with reliance upon Allah. A believer works hard, makes wise decisions, seeks guidance, and then leaves the results in Allah's hands. Imagine a farmer planting seeds. The farmer prepares the soil, plants the seeds, waters the crops, and works diligently. Yet despite all these efforts, the farmer cannot force the seeds to grow. Growth ultimately comes from Allah. In the same way, believers are responsible for effort, but outcomes remain under Allah's control. The lessons of Karbala teach believers to continue doing what is right even when results are not immediately visible. They teach patience during periods of waiting. They teach confidence in Allah's wisdom during times of uncertainty. They teach that faith is not dependent upon perfect circumstances. Every believer experiences moments when trust in Allah is tested. A person may lose a job and wonder what comes next. Someone may face health challenges and fear the future. Another may struggle with personal disappointments and unanswered questions. During these moments, the example of steadfast faith becomes especially meaningful. Trusting Allah does not remove every difficulty. It does, however, transform the way believers respond to difficulty. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by fear, they remember Allah's power. Instead of losing hope, they remember His mercy. Instead of focusing only on obstacles, they remember that Allah can create solutions from places they never expected. The lessons of courage, sincerity and trust in Allah are not limited to one era or one group of people. They are universal values that every believer needs. They guide decisions, strengthen character, and provide direction during life's most challenging moments. Through these lessons, the events of Karbala continue speaking to hearts across generations, reminding believers that true strength comes from faith, true honor comes from sincerity, and true peace comes from trusting Allah completely in every circumstance. One of the most powerful lessons we can take from the events surrounding Karbala is that Allah's plan is always greater than what human beings can see in the present moment. When people look at historical events only through worldly eyes, they often focus on immediate circumstances. They look at numbers, resources, influence, and visible outcomes. However, a believer understands that Allah's wisdom extends far beyond what can be seen at any particular moment. The story of Karbala reminds us that the impact of sincere faith can continue for generations. Even when the circumstances seem overwhelmingly difficult, human beings naturally judge situations based on what is happening right now. If things are going well, they feel optimistic. If challenges arise, they become worried. If a path appears difficult, they may assume that nothing good can come from it. Yet, throughout Islamic history, Allah repeatedly showed believers that what appears difficult today may contain tremendous wisdom for tomorrow. Think about the challenges faced by the prophets of Allah. Prophet Nuh A.S. spent years calling people to Allah with very few followers. Prophet Ibrahim A.S. stood against an entire society that rejected his message. Prophet Musa A.S. confronted one of the most powerful rulers in history. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ faced persecution, opposition, and hardship during the early years of Islam. In many of these situations, if someone had looked only at the immediate circumstances, they might have assumed that success was far away. Yet Allah's plan was unfolding exactly as He intended. The same principle can be seen when reflecting on Karbala. The people involved did not know every detail of what the future would hold. They could not see how future generations would remember the lessons emerging from those events. They could not fully comprehend how their steadfastness would inspire believers across centuries and continents. Yet Allah already knew. His wisdom was operating beyond the limits of human understanding. This teaches us something important about our own lives. There are moments when we become frustrated because things are not happening according to our plans. We make dua and hope for a specific outcome. We work hard toward a goal. We expect certain doors to open. When those expectations are not immediately fulfilled, we begin questioning what is happening. Many times, Allah is teaching us to trust Him beyond what we can see. Faith is not simply believing when everything makes sense. Faith becomes especially meaningful when circumstances are unclear. Anyone can feel confident when every answer is visible. True trust appears when a believer continues relying upon Allah despite uncertainty. There are people who lose opportunities they desperately wanted. At the time, they feel disappointed and confused. Later they discover that Allah was protecting them from something harmful or preparing something better. There are people who experience delays in important areas of life. They wonder why things are taking so long. Years later, they realize that the delay itself contained wisdom that they could not have understood earlier. This is one of the beautiful aspects of belief in Allah's decree. A believer understands that Allah's knowledge is perfect, while human knowledge is limited. We only see a small part of reality. Allah sees everything. We see today, Allah sees tomorrow. We see the immediate challenge. Allah sees the long-term benefit. We see the obstacle. Allah sees the opportunity hidden behind it. Another lesson connected to this idea is the importance of sincerity. The events of Karbala continue to inspire people because they demonstrate devotion to principles rather than personal gain. In today's world, many actions are driven by recognition, popularity, or material benefit. People often ask themselves what they will receive in return for their efforts. Yet sincere believers understand that the greatest reward comes from Allah. Sincerity transforms ordinary actions into acts of worship. A simple act of kindness becomes valuable when done for Allah. A moment of patience becomes meaningful when done for Allah. A difficult sacrifice becomes rewarding when done for Allah. The intention behind an action often determines its value in the sight of Allah. When people focus entirely on worldly rewards, disappointment becomes common because worldly outcomes are never fully under human control. But when people focus on pleasing Allah, they find peace regardless of immediate results. They know that Allah sees every effort, every struggle, and every sincere intention. Karbala also reminds believers that difficult circumstances do not mean Allah has abandoned them. This is a misunderstanding that many people experience during hardship. When problems increase, they sometimes wonder whether Allah is displeased with them. Yet the lives of the prophets and righteous people show the opposite. Those most beloved to Allah often faced tremendous tests. Tests are not necessarily signs of rejection. They are often opportunities for growth, purification, and spiritual elevation. Allah uses challenges to strengthen faith, increase patience, and deepen reliance upon Him. The difficulty itself becomes a means through which a believer draws closer to their Creator. Every person experiences moments when life becomes difficult. There may be financial struggles, health concerns, family problems, emotional pain, or uncertainty about the future. During these times, the lessons from Islamic history become especially valuable. They remind us that hardship is temporary, that Allah remains in control, and that patience is never wasted. One of the most beautiful qualities a believer can develop is hope. Hope is not based on circumstances. Hope is based on trust in Allah. Even when situations appear challenging, a believer remembers that Allah is capable of changing everything in an instant. The same Allah who created the heavens and the earth can open doors that seem impossible to open. He can provide solutions from places we never expected. He can replace fear with peace and hardship with ease. This hope allows believers to continue moving forward. They continue making dua. They continue worshipping Allah. They continue striving to do good. They continue trusting that every situation is part of a larger plan, guided by divine wisdom. As we reflect on the lessons of Karbala, we are reminded that faith requires trust, sincerity, patience, and courage. These qualities are not developed overnight. They grow through challenges, through reflection, and through a deep connection with Allah. Every generation needs these lessons, because every generation faces its own tests and struggles. The story continues to inspire because it directs hearts toward values that never become outdated. It reminds believers to remain steadfast, to maintain hope during difficulty, and to trust Allah even when they cannot fully understand what is happening around them. If you found this reminder beneficial, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with your family and friends so that more people can benefit from these important lessons and reflections. Your support helps spread reminders of faith, patience, hope, and trust in Allah to people around the world.